I want to read the campaign of Tuthmose III and compare him to the same biblical Moses that they write in the Bible and this Cadmus figures. Let's read about the Tuthmose figure. Tuthmose III, Egyptian king of the 18th dynasty, reigned, they say, 1479 through 26 BC, often regarded as the greatest of the rulers of ancient Egypt. Tuthmose III was a skilled warrior who brought the Egyptian empire to the zenith of its power by conquering all of Syria. Syria, that's the land of Israel, Palestine, okay, crossing the Euphrates to defeat the Mitannians. And penetrating south along the Nile to Napata in the Sudan. The Mitannians are the ancient ancestors of the Greeks. Okay. He also built a great number of temples and monuments to commemorate his deeds. Tuthmose's minority. Tuthmose III was the son of Tuthmose II. His mother was one of the king's minor wives or concubines, named Isis. Since there was no prince with the better claim to the throne, the boy was crowned king on the early death of his father. He was about 10 years at the time when his betrothed and was betrothed to the heiress, his half-sister Neferuri. Neferuri's mother Hatshepsut, the daughter of Tuthmose I and wife and sister of Tuthmose II, acted as regent in the second year of his reign. This strong-minded and ambitious woman herself assumed the attributes, dressed in the insignia of a king, and all intents and purposes reigned in his stead. As one of her courtiers say, she directed the affairs of the whole land according to her wishes. Still, Tuthmose was given an education befitting his royal station. He was taught all military skills, especially archery, which he demonstrated in public display, and horsemanship, in which he showed considerable prowess. He was later to boast that none among his followers could equal him in physical strength and marksmanship. As he grew up, Tuthmose may even have been entrusted with command of the army on a campaign in Nubia. Whether he also fought in Palestine is doubtful. His grandfather, Tuthmose I, had penetrated into northern Syria. Tuthmose II, though far from a weakling, had not followed his success, or this success, and Hatshepsut, as a woman, may have been unwilling to send an army into the field. Thus, through inaction, the Egyptian influence in Syria and Palestine had declined. The sons and grandsons of the Syrian princes who had surrendered to Tuthmose I no longer sent tribute. And the king of Mitanni, a powerful Mesopotamian kingdom with its capital beyond the Euphrates, was able to extend his control westward to the Mediterranean. So the Mitannians were the ancestors of the Greeks from Mesopotamia. And they went west in the north and west. That's why they settled Italy, Greece, later Great Britain, France, parts of Europe, okay, from Mitanni. In the 22nd year of Tuthmose's reign, a formidable coalition was formed against Egypt, led by the king of Kadesh in northern Syria, and no doubt supported by the Mitanni. At this moment of crisis, Hatshepsut died. Her death was opportune. Whether her nephew was responsible is a matter of surmise only. But later in his reign, he decreed that her name be obliterated on all her monuments, her statues smashed, and her figure erased from reliefs. So it's a mystery how she died, but we do know Tuthmose III, her nephew, started to smash her wall reliefs as king of Egypt. She was not the king. I was saying this in another program. And he was the lawgiver trying to restore the order and truth in Egypt again. From the Lord God of Egypt called Ammon, who was always a male figure. So, all right, the military campaigns. The few months preparation the king was ready to march at the head of his army. The first campaign is recorded in some detail on the walls of the temple he built at Karnak in Thebes. Just like Cadmus with 5 warriors from the teeth of the dragon he killed, they went to Boeotia and built Thebes, right? In Europe, according to Cadmus. This say he's built, Tuthmose the third built a temple at Karnak in Thebes in Egypt. So that's why I don't believe what the Greeks say. So, temple he built at Karnak in Thebes, which depict the march to Gaza and thence to Yamia, south of the Carmel range. The council of war and the king's bold decision to surprise the enemy encamped at Megiddo, northeast of Carmel, about 18 miles, 29 kilometers southeast of the modern city of Haifa. Tuthmose's approach was by the route least expected, a narrow defile over the mountain. It was successful. The enemy was defeated, and Megiddo was taken after a siege of 8 months, which we call the conquest of Canaan. In subsequent campaigns, which are less fully described in the annals, ports on the Phoenician coast were converted into Egyptian supply bases in Kadesh, and other cities in the Al-Biqwa Valley were taken. It's like they say Cadmus was a Phoenician prince, right, who taught the Greeks their language. He came from where? The Phoenician coast. And were converted into Egyptian supply bases. In Kadesh and other cities in the Al-Biqwa Valley were taken. In the 33rd year of Tuthmose's reign, the time was at last ripe for his most audacious move, an attack on the kingdom of Mitanni. So he attacked the ancient Greeks, ancestors from the north, Mitanni, the ancestor of the Greeks itself, which had grown stronger since the day when Tuthmose I had taken his army by surprise. Tuthmose planned the campaign well. Pontoon boats were transported across Syria and on ox carts for the crossing of the Euphrates River. The ensuing encounter, which must have taken place on the eastern bank, is not described by the annalist. It resulted in the precipitate flight of the Mitannian king, and the capture of 30 members of his harem and some hundreds of his soldiers. Triumphantly, Tuthmose set up his commemorative inscription by the river's edge, next to that of his grandfather Tuthmose I. It was the farthest point of advance on the homeward journey. He also hunted elephant in the land of Ni, in the Orontes Valley, and on his return he celebrated a great triumph at Thebes and dedicated prisoners and booty to the temple of the state god Ammon. In later campaigns, there were 17 in all. Tuthmose III was content to consolidate what he had won and to lay the foundations of the imperial organization of his Asian possessions. Native rulers, members of local ruling dynasties, were henceforth set to govern their own territories as vassals of Egypt. So I believe that to be that league at Sparta in southern Italy and the Peloponnese. Satraps mean governors. So those 5 warriors, according to the Cadmus myth, he set up the Cadmean. So Tuthmose III set up the Cadmean in Asia Minor, right? So setting up satraps. All right. This is what it says. To the south, Tuthmose reaffirmed the southern boundary of the Egyptian domination over Nubia as far as Kenissa Kurgus, and at Napata near the Jebel Barkal, he built a temple to Ammon. He thoroughly subdued the turbulent Nubian tribes and employed many of them in the gold mines, from which from his reign on became the basis of Egyptian wealth in the foreign exchange with the princes of Western Asia. For the last 12 years of his life, he was content to enjoy the fruits of his victories, the tribute of Syria and Palestine, and of the Sudan poured into his treasury. The annals list huge quantities of timber and metal, metal ores, cattle, and grain delivered by the conquered. Minoan Crete, Cyprus, Babylonia, Assyria, and the Hittites all sent gifts. So he set up the Cadmean according to the Cadmus myth. He built things all over Europe and Asia Minor. Tuthmose III. The tombs of high officials of the reign are decorated with scenes depicting the reception of foreign envoys coming from places as far as the Asian and the Greek mainland to lay their rich and exotic gifts at the feet of who? The Pharaoh. Oh my God. And the book of Joshua says there was a 40-year reign of Moses over the kingdom of Cush in Upper Egypt. Kingdom of Cush, Moses was the king of Ethiopia. So Tuthmose III. So, the kingdom of the Cushite people. They went to fight Mitanni, who was the ancestors of the Greeks, who are white people. So he conquered them. He's getting tribute from all over Mesopotamia, all over the Aegean. See? You see what I'm saying? Tuthmose III and Cadmus and the biblical Moses seem to be the same thing. So